Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 20th episode of Slime Time Sidequest, an official Dragon's Den podcast. This is Plattym3.
And this is Yangus, the Legendary Bandit.
Woohoo! It's time to celebrate, Yangus. You'll be out celebrating with the lads this weekend, I'm sure. 'Tis the season, right?
Tis the season for what now?
Well, I mean, besides the obvious, it's also back to school time. All around Krampus, I can feel that special school spirit in the air.
Spirit in the air? What? Platty, you don't know Jack.
Frost has been on the windows. I mean, it's kind of due to the malfunctioning air conditioners in some rooms, but that's really set the tone for this special time of year. I'm so excited. Not even that creepy, like, gorilla or Mary Lloyd can bring me down. Woohoo!
All right. Calm down, Platty. What the heck are you going on about? I feel like I swing my boot right through this microphone and kick you with my patented nutcracker. You keep this up.
And the Mouse King, yeah. You know, I see you're getting it now.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, we've been doing the Sidequest podcast for about a full year now, and I can assure you I don't have a freaking clue what you're going on about, all right? Not a single thing you're saying is ringing a bell.
Schnickle, schnickle, schnickle.
Okay, just to break away from the script real quick, that was really funny. So just hearing you go schnickle, schnickle, schnickle. Okay, all right. Still no clue what you're talking about. Whatever. I'm putting an end to your head cannon pun fest, whatever. And I'm simply just going to tell our listeners out there the big news. This episode, we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary tonight. And by doing that, we're going to be talking about a topic we didn't want to wait another 6 months to talk about. So we're jumping ahead pretty much.
That's right. We're going to celebrate Christmas in July tonight. We'll be focusing on all those extremely Christmas-themed video games out there. The millions of them!
I mean, maybe there's like one or two. But in case you haven't noticed, as opposed to all of the horror and Halloween-themed games we talked about last October, there really aren't exactly a ton of video games out there entirely about Santa Claus or Christmas and so on and so forth. Most of what we talk about tonight, though, we are going to be sticking with wintry themed areas in different games, or if a game has like a Christmas themed level, we'll be talking about that.
All right, fair enough there, Scrooge McGrinch. All right, joining us tonight for our Wintry Wonderland episode, we have our Christmas elf helpers. We've got Pendy, Eel, Cthulhu, and MattCraft. Welcome, guys.
Hey, I just want to be a dentist.
Hey.
I think we'll get to that game soon, too.
Yangus, why did you break kayfabe and tell the audience there's a script?
What? No, I didn't say that. No. Platty, edit that out. They don't want to hear this.
Ruining the magic.
Oh, no. I didn't say that. That was Cthulhu. Who said that.
Ruining the spirit of Christmas and podcast.
I told you we shouldn't invite a Cthulhu on, Platty, but no, you said let's bring him on.
Things to go to Rye left pretty quickly. But speaking of Lord of the Underworld, we'll start with someone who's has a limited amount of time tonight. We can't join us for our whole 7-hour episode that we're going to start right with here. So
7-hour episode.
You better get more than water while he's starting to talk about this there, Yangus. But we're going to... MattCraft, we're going to start with you. You got a couple things that you wanted to talk about. And like you said, you are a little bit short on time tonight, so we got no problem letting you go first and take it away with what you want to talk about.
Alrighty, I was going to talk about one game first, but I decided to switch it around. I know all of you have played Secret of Mana. Classic, wonderful game. Go around the world, saving it like every other RPG in the universe. They did one wonderful, wonderful thing that I'm surprised didn't get them sued by the people who made the CBS movies. They actually added in Santa Claus, the real bona fide Santa Claus. When you get to the obligatory ice world in the game, you're tasked with finding the Mana Seed, which is one of the game's major MacGuffins. Guess what? Someone beat you to it. It was Santa Claus. He was going to get the mana seed so that he could save Christmas, literally. When you go to find Santa and the mana seed, Santa has turned into the boss monster, made a giant ice castle, a la Frozen, and you get to lay the smackdown on him for not giving you any presents last year. Platty. You end up defeating
I didn't do it.
Yes, you did. You ended up defeating Santa, who turned into a giant hulking ice monster. And then literally you save Christmas, because Santa goes around the mana world shortly after that, I'm guessing, delivering presents, because you don't have to go back to the ice level. One little good funny thing about it is Rudolph is there too. So you got Santa, Rudolph, all in a mana title. The other game I'm going to talk about is part of what is known as not the Soul Blazer trilogy, made by Quintet, who also made the ActRaiser games. If you've never heard of Terranigma, it is actually very good action RPG for the Super Nintendo. Got released in Europe, never saw release in the US, and it was one of the last good, I think Enix published it, I can't remember, I know Quintet developed it, but during the game you literally resurrect the entire world. You go through it reviving plants, animals, humans, birds, etc. While you're going through what is known as the third act of the game, you end up going to Siberia, the winter wonderland of Russia, where you also end up, I'm trying to remember the exact words that they use, you end up finding a lab in the middle of the wilderness where you resurrect the eponymous genius that's the main focus of Chapter 3. And from there, the game just continues on. That's really all I've got for my Winter Wonderland. The lovely thing about it is that when you resurrect the genius, he decides he wants to turn the world into a winter wonderland, a nuclear winter wonderland with biological weapons. That is it for me, guys. Y'all have a good one. I gotta go take a shower.
All right, well, have some good, clean fun doing that there, MattCraft. All right, you know what? I'm just going to randomly pick somebody here. Pendy, you've got a couple of things that you wanted to talk about. Go ahead and pick one of yours, and let's go to that.
I do. So I'm going to start with I Am Setsuna, or as I like to call it, I Am Amy, since you can change Setsuna's name, so I changed it to my wife's name. It's a RPG from Square Enix that first came out on the Vita.
Ooh.
Oh no. Woohoo. I was waiting for Matt's woohoo.
Wow, I Am Setsuna's on the Vita?
Yeah, it's on the Vita.
What the hell?
That's what the good old Wikipedia, the Pedia of Wix, tells me. But it came out on the Vita, the PS4, and Windows in February of 2016 in Japan, worldwide in the following July. I played the Switch release that originally came out in March of 2017 worldwide. It's a game that takes place entirely in a snowy backdrop, and the entire soundtrack is done on a piano. And that's it. That's the game in a nutshell. Piano and snow, snow and piano. Next game. That's all I got.
So what was the combat like in there? Wasn't that supposed to be like the spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger or something?
Yes, and I am just kidding because I actually do have more written. I actually do have a whole.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
That'd be great.
But no.
Just actually stop there. Just like, nope, that's it.
But no, yes, you are right. That's the trans that goes right into what I was going to start to talk about. It is a Chrono Trigger style game. The developers openly say that it's supposed to be a 90s style RPG that draws heavy inspiration from it. It's an ATB battle system with enemies on screen. You have 3-player party battles with 2 or 3 characters that can pull off combos together. It even involves time travel near the end of the game, though I won't say how or why, just to avoid spoilers. Some of the people on the Dragon's Den Discord, including our fellow Yangus, tried to warn me it's not really the most exciting game in the world, and I'd have to agree. In my opinion, it's mediocre at best. I love Chrono Trigger, but this gives me the feeling of a low-budget, off-brand Chrono Trigger. Like, if you go to the grocery store and buy that cereal in a bag, off-brand Lucky Charms or Cheerios, it may taste similar, but it's not that great. In the battles, the combo seemed underwhelming to me to start off with. They were much more colorful and dynamic in Chrono Trigger, in my opinion. And back in that day, having enemies on screen in a turn-based RPG was kind of rare at the time. But the biggest appeal wasn't that you could see them, it was how they interacted with you. Oftentimes, they would pop out from the environment and come out in many different visually appealing ways. Even if you already saw them hanging out, sometimes they would be making different expressions or messing around with each other. Sometimes you'd even catch them napping, little fun ways like that. It was part of the fun of the game. In I Am Hamey, most of the time, they are just casually moving around. There's not much to their movements for the most part. Now, for some people, the snowy backgrounds and the piano soundtrack got very old very quickly, but I actually didn't mind it that much. It's actually a pretty short game. If you go to the website Time to Beat, it has an average completion time of around 20 hours. Not that long. Now, had it been twice that, like a standard RPG time, I would have agreed that a completely snowy world would have gone on for much too long. Really, the biggest thing that killed it for me were the characters. Like, they weren't just really that interesting to me. They were all kind of boring and don't seem to have a lot of personality. None of them really stood out to me. I read that the story's central theme is sadness, and I do see that. After all, you play a main character that is hired to assassinate Amy before she can make a journey to sacrifice herself to appease the monsters and stop them from attacking the world. And that theme of sadness plays throughout the game. There are many tragic backstories involved, especially with the end boss. He has a very tragic backstory as well of why and how he became the huge demon that he is. But again, I was just kind of bored with it. I mean, I don't mind a sad story, whether it be an anime like Wolf's Rain or a video game like Dragon Quest V. Sad stories can be very entertaining. The game just didn't do anything for me. So for anyone else that has tried this game, what do you guys think of it?
I played it a few years ago. I think it was one of the first digital games I bought for my PS4 after I got it, because I think it ended up being on sale not too long after I picked one up. Anyway, I played it. I got through a good chunk of the game, but honestly, I did like how it was like a snowy, icy kind of world to the entire game, because really I've always liked the winter season. But that fall is probably my favorite season, but winter is close behind that, just because I like the snow and I like the ice, and I just kind of like how it makes the world look. And I thought that Setsuna, even though it seemed like a little bit of a lower budget game for an from Square Enix, that it still was visually a pretty nice looking game. And even though there were areas that they were mainly in white because of the snow, that there were some that did have distinct features to it, so nothing looked like super samey from what I remember playing. That being said, I'm not really a fan of the characters. None of them really were that interesting, and even the characters that I thought were going to be you're going to be kind of a cool character, they just kind of fell flat. I like their designs. I'm just not a big fan of their personalities and what little they have. I do like the design of the main character, though. I think he kind of has that I don't know what design I would call that, but I kind of like how he has that knight sort of look, but also like a mercenary kind of look to him, and he's got that helmet that covers up his head. I just thought he had kind of a neat design, But yeah, that's really all about I have for it. I liked the music. The piano, being a piano-focused soundtrack, was definitely a different choice to go with, but I think it worked fine. Visually, it was fine. Characters just didn't really leave a big impact.
Yeah, I think that was the weakest part of the game, was just the characters.
Yeah.
The reception was just too mixed to justify wanting to play a 20-hour RPG. So I'm sure if it came out to Vita in English, I would have picked that up day one, but alas.
Yes, we double checked. It was on Vita, but it never came over here on Vita.
I think it's in Asian English, though.
Through the Southeast Asian region? Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of those for Vita games. There's a lot of games that get English, but only in the Asian versions. So I think that might have been the situation.
Yeah,
I know they did that with Dragon Quest Builders 1, because I think you told us about that one, where there was actually a physical version.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah, I play a lot of...
It's it's just a kind of expensive game to get, and you can only import it off PlayAsia.
Yeah, that's how I play all the Super Robot Wars games that come out, because they only come out in English for Southeast Asia, so I end up importing them all. But I didn't know that about builders. That's a cool little fact that I didn't know about.
Hey, the next Super Robot Wars you don't have to worry about.
How's that?
That's coming out in the United States.
Is it? I didn't see that.
Yep.
I know it's coming out in Southeast Asia again because they have that. I saw that shortly after the trailer came out. But I didn't know it's coming out in the United States too. That's awesome. Yeah, that's going to be the 30th anniversary game that they're doing.
Yeah, it's the
Maybe
first
they'll have
one
a
in
cross-age
quite a while.
mecha in there.
Oh, they're gonna have everything. Well, a lot. All right. Well, if we're done with Setsuna, we'll go over to Evan. Go ahead and pick one of your titles. And,
All right. So I picked an actual Christmas game. I chose Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for Wii, and they actually had the gall to make a DS version of this game as well. So let me just start off.
Well.
Let me just start off by answering the question you're all likely asking yourselves: is it a good game? No, it is not. The first red flag was the box when I opened it to play last night. It had stills from the movie or the special or whatever, and so half of the box is just a really grainy picture of Rudolph, and like half the thing is just snow, really grainy snow, and then like another third of it is just the logo and like the abominable snowman is like holding on to it, and he's like a very hairy looking thing, so you could tell they didn't really crop it out of the screenshot very well, so it's just a very poorly cut version of the abominable snowman holding on to like the game's logo. So when the game boots up, you are introduced to Sam the Snowman. As you all know, he was voiced by Burl Ives, and they didn't even try to replicate Burl Ives' voice at all. It was one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, wow.
And they do a lot of quotes in there too. Like they try to like do nostalgia quotes in there, where like, oh, the only castle on the left, or what? Never heard of a talking snowman before. It was so. Would it surprise you if I told you there's a story mode in this game? So it's I believe it was 4 or 5 levels. The first level was called Holiday Helper. Basically, what it is it's one of those games where like an item drops from the sky, and you have to use Rudolph to bounce it over to like the Christmas tree or Santa's bag or whatever. But the problem is it's motion controlled, so you have to very lightly move the Wii remote while you're controlling Rudolph. And the problem is Rudolph is very tall, and when an item bounces off of Rudolph, it doesn't bounce high enough and it falls too fast, and the controls are so imprecise that you keep bouncing it in the wrong direction, back and forth, back and forth. And I eventually had to come up with a trick where I make Rudolph jump, so it gives the item enough air where he can eventually move underneath it and bounce it over to the Christmas tree or Santa's bag or whatever. The next game was Toy Maker, which is in stark contrast to the first game, one of the most mindless things I've ever done in my life. There's a conveyor belt of toys, and you have to give it color. And all you have to do is when the item glows, you swing your Wii remote, and Rudolph will just throw red paint at it, and then it'll get wrapped up in a present and go on its way. The next one was Cookie Cooking. And this one's a little bit more involved, where like a prompt will appear on the screen, and you swing the Wii remote this way, push it down, slide this way, slide that way. So Rudolph's doing various activities to bake cookies. It's slightly better than the other 2 games, but only because it requires a little bit more finesse on the part of the player, I guess. And then the last one was called Saving Christmas, and basically it's Santa. He's flying over all the houses, and you play as an elf, and you throw all the gifts, off the thing, just like in the special, and you try to get it onto the roof or in the chimney for extra points. And there are points in this game. So if you're curious, my scores were 7 in Holiday Helper, 52 in Toy Maker, 28 in Cookie Cooking, and 37 in Saving Christmas. And in between each level, there's a new thing where Sam the Snowman goes, "Oh, you just did this thing. Now this new thing is happening. Go to the new mini game now," type thing. And when that happens, you're then given an option to choose which character you want to play as, because this game has co-op. There's co-op in this game. So
Ooh.
anyone with kids out there, this is a family-friendly co-op game. And you can play as the male or female version of that character. I think it's Rudolph and Clarice, and then just a generic male elf and female elf. It was so I dropped this in the private messages in the Discord. It took me 12 minutes to play this whole game front to back.
Yes.
A little bit shorter because I included the time it took for the game to load up. And then I let it run through the end credits. So I think it would have been closer to around 11 minutes or so.
So you hit credits in 12 minutes?
Wow.
Yes.
You know,
can
I've
actually
seen
go
so
on
many people.
YouTube.
Sorry, go
You
ahead.
can actually go on YouTube and see other people's full Let's Plays of this game. That's why I was kind of like, oh man, I'm really not looking forward to playing this game literally the night before we record this podcast because I knew it was so short.
That's awesome.
Oh man. You know,
If
I
any of
always
you,
heard about
don't
this
have a
game,
Wii,
but I've
it's
never
available
heard
on
that it was that
DS.
short, Evan. I never heard it was that short.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised there weren't like more mini games. I guess there wasn't much they could do. I'm kind of confused why they didn't try to do like the full story of the special, and I guess it's probably a budget thing. But it was kind of weird that it was just like the little montage before the end when they're all preparing for Christmas last minute, and the like in the original special.
Yeah.
It was budget like through and through. It was not a very high tech thought out game. And what I thought was most funny was when I booted up the game and it's showing all the developers or whatever attached to it. The first one was a picture of like their clip art looking logo, and the next one was this very lavish, like maybe 30-second long clip of someone putting in a video game, and things are just exploding all over the place. Oh my god, it's so crazy, and the logo appears, high voltage games, and then it loads into a really terrible looking Wii shovelware game.
Wow, talk about budget. I just looked it up on Amazon. You can get it for $1.99.
Ooh. Platty, I think you
Nice.
know what you need to get your boys for Christmas this year.
I was going to say, it's got co-op.
Yeah,
there you
rough-
go.
I initially bought it because I saw a new copy on eBay and I needed a new case for a week. I think I paid about $3 or $4.
Yeah, referencing the Time to Beat website again. That it puts the average to beat this game at 15 minutes, a whole 15 minutes.
Oh,
And this
just
is whether
then.
this is whether you're doing regular style or being a completionist.
This
Wow.
game's length is self-imposed, though. It has like every minigame has like a timer on it. So like it's not like you stop scoring or something, or you miss too many times, the game will penalize you and stop. It just keep like I was really confused on the present game because the conveyor belt that gives you all the gifts moves at its own pace, and so I'm really just like, so long as I'm flicking my wrist, my score is literally impossible to go up or down because the clock moves at its normal pace and the conveyor belt's just going to go whenever it's going to go, and there's nothing I can do to make to add time on the clock or any of that. So it's just like I got 58 points, and it would have been I literally could not have gotten more than 58 points because I got every single hit before the timer ran out.
Wow.
Jeez.
And it's not like, oh, you didn't score enough, you wouldn't get to move on. I did really bad at the first game. I was thinking, oh my god, am I going to spend the next 30 minutes trying to get a good enough score in this game? And no, it just dumped me into the next game. It's like, yeah, I got 7 points. All right, new game.
Oh, jeez. Well, I don't
We
think
probably
we
talked
quite...
about it longer than
We probably did.
You know what? I'm writing down minutes here so I can put the music in, and you're about at 12, so you've almost reached your goal, I believe.
I would recommend you just pull music from the special, although I guess that might risk getting it, pulled from YouTube or whatever, because
Yeah,
they're
whatever,
really
I pull everything.
you can just rip off from the game itself. It's really just generic style music.
Oh.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, that's a fun one. Now, Yangus, usually I call on you next, and then I go last, and then I ended up the show. But I'm gonna save you for last this week. I'm gonna cut in here.
No.
That way you can end the episode or keep it going forever, however you decide to go later.
Well, what?
But
Well, just okay. So I'll let the audience in on something. So before I edited my part in, I checked to see what Plattym had put down or what he had written up for the thing so far, and what he had listed for mine. Let me see if I can find that picture.
just whatever.
He put like 6 different things down for it, and it said under Yangus, 1, whatever, 2, more whatever, 3, what the f***, 4, come on now, 5, that's enough, 6, done, all caps.
Well, I knew you were going to have a lot of stuff to talk about, so I wanted to make sure that your little 4 to 6 bullet points were already there for you.
Well, thank you for looking out for me, I guess.
And I think Evan pretty much like hit it perfectly with what I wrote there. It was like, what did I say? Like what did I put for him? I was like, oh, some visual novel we've never heard about, another game.
Yeah.
Another game nobody's ever played, and then like, of course, a game we've all played or something like that. And
Yeah.
looking at his 3, it's pretty much right about that.
I'm gonna talk about my second game for like a super long time, so I might just cut out my last game. Save it for
Alright.
a future Christmas episode in case.
Oh yes, I'm sure we could always come up with another snowy themed episode.
Yeah. Hey,
But-
maybe we can actually do an actual Christmas episode around Christmas time. But that's a crazy. idea.
No, we
Why
gotta
would
do
we
a
that?
summer episode around Christmas time.
Yeah.
Christmas
We
times
could.
are games we like for the year. You know, we've done that 100% of the times.
I appreciated that my section just said snowy piano. That was fun.
Yes, that was pretty good.
All right, so I'm going to talk about my first game, and this was one I actually tagged the developers on Twitter today because, I mean, I really love this game, but I can't find, like, any information. There's no wikis. You go on game FAQs, and the board is just somebody saying, I own the board, and that's, like, their entire chat message board area about it. But it's from an indie developer, Zeboid Games, and I played Cthulhu Saves Christmas about 1.5 years ago. It was released in December 2019, came out on PC, and then last year it came out on Switch with some options that I really wish I had on the PC version the first time around. It is a prequel to their 2010 game Cthulhu Saves the World. It's one of those retro pixel titles. Looks absolutely beautiful. You know, you just wish that people could have made pixel art like that back in the 90s. Although maybe the Super Nintendo didn't have as many color palettes as that back then. But you wake up one morning, you're playing as Cthulhu, and you wake up, the narrator's like reading a, like, you know, Cthulhu was snuggled all warm in his bed kind of Christmas poem, and you immediately get the fact that there's not going to even be a fourth wall. It's just completely shattered. Cthulhu's like, shut up, narrator. We're not doing any poems in this game. And the whole game, there's jokes like that throughout. I mean, it just talks to you, the player. It reminds you to play or buy other games from the company. They did that in what was their other Cosmic Star Heroine. You walk up to somebody at one point and they're like playing like Breath of Death 7 or something, one of the other games that they have done. But you're Cthulhu, you wake up and there's a present like sitting on your table. I'm like, oh, well, it's a little early for Christmas presents, but Santa, I guess, brought me a present. You open it up, you lose all your powers. So Cthulhu's all pissed at Santa. He's going to go kill Santa right away. He's like, I'm going to get my powers back. You end up, though, teaming up with Santa's granddaughter, Crystal Claus, and you find out that, of course, it wasn't Santa who did anything poor to you. It was the League of Christmas Evil. And
That's the best name for an evil group for Christmas.
and they've got Santa. You got to go save Santa because Santa can give you your wish, and Cthulhu's wish is to have all his powers back so he can destroy the world. So, you know, to destroy the world, you must save Christmas. You know, there's the plot of the game. And everybody that joins you, all the bosses that you fight, are all these mythical creatures from multiple different areas all around the world. One of the people that joins you is Baba Yaga, and they call him Baba Yaga-chan. And this comes from like a Russian area, Ukraine, all around there. Myths. There's hundreds of them. Apparently, I was looking up today in fairy tales, and they're so widespread that Baba Yaga has been described as an old cannibal witch, to a wise prophetess who gives guidance to heroes. So, it like in the hundreds of different fairy tales that star Baba Yaga, she could be pretty much anything. But in this game,
you know what? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Like John Wick.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there real quick, Platty, but you talking about Baba Yaga, I'm pretty sure there's an equivalent to her in the Shin Megami Tensei games. It's not Baba Yaga specifically, but it's a version of her. That's an old witch like that. I gotta look that up now. It's
they got other ones.
It's the relation to Barong. It's the Barong's eternal rival in those games.
In Soviet Russia, Baba Yaga is you.
There's other creepy women ones in the game, the Gariella and the Marie Lloyd. So there's a bunch of creepy witches in wintery and Christmas kind of mythology around that.
Rhonda, that's the name. That's the name of the witch that I'm thinking of. Because the way you describe Baba Yaga, that's pretty much how Rhonda is, where she's like an old witch that, like, she's got like these creepy long nails. She's from, she's from like Bali and Balinese mythology, but she's kind of the same idea.
All right. Most of these come from, they stick to mainly European. You get Belschnickel, who you also heard referenced in our opening part. Schnickel. This guy is a German helper of Saint Nick. He's a man who wears furs, and sometimes he's got a mask with a long tongue. But basically, he carries a stick in his hand, and he goes around and he beats the naughty children at Christmas. But also, he's got a pocket full of cakes and candies and nuts for all the good kids. He joined your party. Then you got some of the bosses. I don't want to give everybody away, but there's always good old Krampus, the guy from the 2015 horror film. This comes from folklore in the Swiss Alps, and it's this horned devilish figure who during Christmas also kind of like follows along behind Saint Nick, and if you're good, Saint Nick gives you the gifts, and if you're bad, Krampus does bad things to you. We got good old Jack Frost from Atlas. I think there's actually a joke in there about Atlas or Persona or Shin Megami Tensei. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say he's like the very first boss in the very first area. There's so many jokes in these games that Zeboid Games is always cracking people up. You fight the Mouse King from the Nutcracker Ballet, and just tons more. So shout out, by the way, to the Zeboid guys from sending me a direct message today with all these people's names in it, because I played it a year and a half ago and I remembered a bunch of them, but like there's no wiki, there's no nothing on this game out there. Like, come on, fans. Somebody's got to have something out there.
That surprises me there's no wiki for it, because I would have thought with the first game, Platty, that there would have been Cthulhu Saves the World, that there would have been something for it,
Yeah,
I'm
just
sure
a page
there's
with like characters or...
I'm sure there's a Cthulhu specific themed wiki that's probably got an entry on it somewhere.
Yeah. I tried digging for all 5 minutes, and I thought it was easier to go straight to the source, and guys were great on Twitter and got back to me, so thank you. But the battle system, it's a turn-based one, very similar if you've played any of their other games. Almost identical to Cosmic Star Heroine. You can actually see your turns coming up. There's a little bar on the right-hand side of the battle screen. You can see who's going to go next and whatever. Everybody has 7 attacks per turn to choose from, and at the beginning of the battle, you have all 7 available to you, and then a rest command. And each attack can only be used once, and then you can't use it the rest of the battle unless you burn a turn to rest. And something interesting about the battle system also is you get to pick 3 or 4 of those commands to equip to your character at any given time, and then the other 3 or 4 get automatically just shuffled into your person at the beginning of every battle. So you could have 3 random encounters in a row and have half of your attacks different for every character every time. You just so you always pick your 3 most powerful ones and always lock them in, and then your other ones are just random. Not that this is a hard game anyway. These games are not too bad at all, and I love how these games really respect your time. First off, this game is like a 4 to 5 hour game tops. Most of their games really are. Even Cosmic Star Heroine, maybe 10 to 12, and they've got random encounters as you're walking around the places, and even those random encounters, right when you're going to get a random encounter, you'll have a little icon that's going from green to yellow to red. Also, there's a battle counter, and I want to say it's at 20 or 15 in every single area. Once you hit those 15 to 20 random battles, you don't have any more random encounters.
Okay.
I can't remember if here, I know in Cosmic Star Heroine, you could just trigger one anytime you wanted if you wanted to grind and just battle for a while. Can't remember if this has it too, but I'm sure there's something in there. It wouldn't just stop you from being able to go do that. The main loop of this game is it's Christmas Eve, like forever, I want to say, or like 31 days or something like that. And you spend 4 days in this little Christmas town. And then like every 5th day, you go do another dungeon and a battle. And it totally plays on Persona that every day you get to do a what they call Rylethship. Because Cthulhu lives in the city of Ryleth, or the planet of Ryleth, or whatever, in his lore, but they play on that and pun it with relationships. And you get to pick who you want to spend the day with every time. And whoever you spend the day with, they're these like literally 30 to 45 second quick little encounters with them. And it's always Cthulhu like wanting to do something actually devious or just pissed off that he's got to spend the day doing something. And half the time he inadvertently does something really dreadful that turns out really beneficial for people. So he's always failing to be evil. Like one, you can pick, you go to the mall and he ends up taking the day as the mall Santa. And like just gives kids like these horrible presents, but it turns out just fine or something. And
sounds like Blue Star.
Yeah. And that's the only way to get upgraded items or armor and weapons in the game. There's no like currency that you're buying stuff with. At least I don't recall that, but you get new weapons. Like if you need a new weapon for Crystal Claws, go spend the day with her. And it's very clear. It'll say like, oh, if you go with her, you'll get the new sword for this person. And again, the game is not that hard. My biggest complaint at the end of it was that there wasn't a New Game Plus, something I never do, but I wanted to do it just to go through and do all the other Rylethship stuff that I didn't do the first time. Because, I mean, they're so short, and each one just had me cracking up every time. It was just great. So total play on the whole Persona timed bits and relationship points and whatever. But, I mean, they make it go in 5 minutes. You're from one boss to the beginning of the next day when you're back battling again. So it really respects your time. And as I've said on the podcast many times, I write for rpgamer.com. And one of our owners, Marey, Privateer, one of her avatars online, one of her nicknames online is Paws, and she knows these guys really well, and she's in some of the video games that they've made. You can do one where you find Paws in the little cat locked in a cage, and you can let her out, and I think she's like this intergalactic alien that's just disguised as this thing, and Cthulhu's always like, hey, what are you doing here? Pop up here. So that was always funny it was like, oh, I know the person they named that one after. Gave a little nod to her. But it's
pretty cool.
Game. Yep, it's a quick game. It's out on pretty much everything at this point. It's out on Switch. It was like a launch title for PlayStation 5.
Oh, really?
And I want to say that I know it came out when it came out on Switch last Christmas time. They did the limited run games release, and I think you could even get the PS5 physical copy like right around the launch time of PS5.
Yeah, I think that was their first PS5 game.
Yeah,
on limited runs.
Mm-hmm. So, fun game, quirky game. I'm sure it's on sale. Heck, I think when I played Cosmic Star, or it may have been this one, that it even said, like, have you played our other games? Come on, they're like $1 every other week on Steam or something like that. Like, right in the game, it tells you that. So, they've made some funny games. They're They're working on some magical This Way Darkness Lies or something like that. They're doing some magical girl pirate JRPG-ish type of game. Oh, not pirate. Shakespeare. A magical girl Shakespeare JRPG.
Sounds like a day one buy for me.
Yeah,
That is quite the mix.
yeah. And it's great. They're very communicative on Twitter, and they put out polls all the time. They're like, "Should we do this? Should we do that? Should we play with the combat?"
I always imagined that Shakespeare really wanted all of his characters to be magical girls. So, I feel like that would have been the thing back in his time.
Yeah. Well, if we're talking magical girls, it's time for Yangus to start talking more than.
What? Wow, nice segue.
And if I knew any Shakespeare by heart, I would have used that as the segue to you. But I'm not a high school student forced to memorize stuff anymore. So on to you.
Okay. So just real quick before I do start talking about one of my things, do you guys have just one other one, or how many other things do you guys have? Because I don't want to, take up too much.
I was going to say, do 2 of your 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one, and it requires a lot of context, so I'll be running for a little while. So feel free to go as long as you want.
Okay. I'm just going to probably just go with 2 of mine then, because 2 of my things that I picked out, I don't really have a whole lot to say on. So in that case, I'm going to talk about Freezeezy Peak from Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64. So if you've never played Banjo-Kazooie, it's a collectathon platformer where you play as the titular Banjo the Bear and Kazooie the Bird. You go through the levels through Gruntilda the Witch's lair. You collect these golden jiggies that help you open up entryways to new levels to go to. And eventually, as you're going through, the 5th world that you get to is Freezeezy Peak. A reason I chose this level for this episode tonight was not only because it's a wintry themed level, but it's actually a Christmas winter themed level. So when you first get to the world and you open the doorway for it, you actually see that the entryway looks like one of those advent calendars where you open up like the 1 and there's a little thing in it. There's a 2, you open it up. You guys know what I'm talking about with an advent calendar?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So. It's a cool little set piece that you have for the entryway to the world, because the doorway that opens up once you complete the picture for the level, it's basically one of those little chunks of the advent calendar opening up to let you in. So it's kind of a cool little touch. You get into the level, it's a starry night. Up above there's snow that'll fall down as you play through. You have igloos, you have a little village that's, covered with Christmas lights. You have snowmen all around you. The centerpiece of the level is an absolutely gigantic snowman that has this big metallic scarf that you can travel all across to get up to the snowman. There's a great big Christmas tree that you have to help decorate by protecting the Christmas tree lights to get to the tree. This is Banjo-Kazooie, and everything that's an inanimate object has eyes, has googly eyes put onto it, and is alive. So helping out Christmas lights to get to a Christmas tree is not that crazy of a concept for this particular series. But you then have a Christmas tree. You can find some Christmas presents and take them to Polar Bear's kids to give it to them so they can have a Merry Christmas, because their dad was a lazy bum and didn't buy him anything.
Good jerk.
I know. You don't feel too bad for Bogey the polar bear the more you interact with him, because he just really cares about himself and his racing rather than trying to take care of his kids. It gets even worse in the sequel. But let me see. So if this is a really Christmas theme world, you have a really great theme song for this level that was Grant Kirkhope was the composer for Banjo-Kazooie and its sequel Banjo-Tooie. And I think Kirkhope has said that Freezeezy Peak is one of his favorite songs, because you will hear Freezeezy Peak remixed into a lot of different banjo, there's an official symphonic orchestra medley piece from different songs from the game. And one of the very first songs that plays in it is from this level. And I think Kirkhope has said that it is one of his favorites that he ever wrote for the series. And really, I completely understand why, because it's a very, high-spirited, very Christmassy song, because We'll just we'll have it be playing in the background in the episode. But before we do that, it goes like you know, it's very holly jolly sounding, is the way I'd put it. Very Christmassy song that's not really a Christmas song. But this is a level that's always stuck out to me from the game, not only because it has that Christmassy vibe to it, and it has, you know, the presents and, you know, a lot of interesting characters, and some that are just real jerks because, you know, British humor, people are jerks. But I always loved it because of the music. I love the level design of this place. It's actually not that big of a level, but with some of the set pieces, I mean, you have a ton to explore, like the giant snowman that's in the center of the stage that I was talking about. You know, you go inside the Christmas tree, you have some caves that you can go into. There's quite a bit that you can actually discover in this level. And, you know, the music is very nice, like I said. You have some nice challenges that you actually can go back to and complete once you get some unlockables later on in the game for moves. And, you know, really, that's about all I really have to say. This is one of the levels that has always stuck out to me from this game. One that I think a lot of people remember fondly too, because of so many elements to it. And, you know, if you ever play Banjo Kazooie, then you will experience a fun Christmassy themed winter wonderland level. Just be prepared to deal with a really bad father of a polar bear and a jerk and racist of a walrus, because he doesn't like anything else but walruses. But that's rare humor for you. So that's it for Freezeezy Peak.
All right, did you want to talk about another one, or should we turn it over to Evan?
Well, I mean, I can talk about one of my other ones real quick if that's fine with you.
Yeah,
guys.
I was going to say, you got some short
Works
ones.
for me.
Throw two in, and then we'll go long with Evan.
Okay.
You know, you want to.
Okay. So for my other one then that I'll talk about real quick, I'm actually going to talk about a game that I've recently been playing, Hitman, specifically Hitman 2. So when I bought the game, it showed that there you could buy all of the content from Hitman 1 for like $20. So I'm like, oh, you know, sure, I'll get that. You know, I get all of the content from the first game. I can play it in the second one, no problem, whenever I want to. And so, you know, I picked it up. And when I was going through the levels, one of the first levels from the original game from 2016 was a level it's a level set in Paris, where you have to, normally you go after these two fashion show specialists. One of them is in charge of that, one of them is in charge of the secret auction that's going on. If just to give a real quick talk about Hitman, if you've never played the game before, you're playing an assassin called Agent 47. He's sent into these different locations to take out different people, usually who are doing black market deals. They hold a lot of power in a particular area. You know, they're blackmailing somebody. They're like, everyone you go after is not a good person in these missions. So, basically your goal then in the game is just to try and figure out how to take care of these problems that are going on, how to take care of these people, and how you want to solve those levels. A lot of creativity and freedom what you want to do. So when I was playing the game and just kind of messing around in the Paris level, I went to look at the full list of stuff you could do for like some side missions as well as the main one. And they actually have one that made me stop and go, oh my God. They have a full Christmas redecoration of the Paris level, which takes place in this old museum. It's called Holiday Hoarders, and your two targets are such an obvious and big love letter to the Home Alone movies, because the two guys you go after are named Harry and Marv. They're both bandits, and they're both trying to steal these really expensive items from this Christmassy themed neighborhood. In this case, it happens to be this big museum.
Love it.
It's pretty great. You even read up on them and you look at their designs. Like, Harry is the smaller one of the two. He's wearing a beanie hat. He has like that long black trench coat sort of thing that Joe Pesci wears in Home Alone. And then Marv is the taller one of the two. He's got like full facial hair. He's really lanky looking. Like, it's a pretty funny shout out to the movies. It's a pretty good little a nod to Home Alone. But what's really cool is that, rather than it just being like, you go into a level and, you got to go get these two bandits. Like I said, there are just a ton of new set pieces and new decorations, like scattered across the whole. Like, as soon as you begin the level and it starts you off in the default level or the default starting point for the Paris level. You start outside of the museum where this fashion show is going to be taking place, and you actually see like there's all the trees are like decorated with Christmas lights. There's big banners strung up and hanging from the fountains and from the side of the building. There's presents that you can find, which if you open them up, you actually get different things for Agent 47 to use, which is pretty funny because one of them has my favorite one that I found. You open it up, it's very obviously a shovel that's wrapped up in Christmas wrapping paper, but it's called the mystery present. It's pretty good. But yeah, like you have, there's a ton of stuff too. Like even the statues on the fountains that are outside of this museum are covered with like Santa hats, and they have streamers coming from them of different like Christmas colors, like, you know, red, green, like gold and white. And you even can find a Santa suit. Like when you're playing this stage, the briefing for it is like, we know there's these two criminals that are going after this, you know, after all these rare items and, you know, valuables inside this museum that's being used for the fashion show. But we've also been hearing this strange jingle belling sound and what sounds like ho ho ho. We're not sure what that's about, so you might want to look into that. And you can actually find a Santa suit. That's the best part.
That's like all those holiday specials for like family sitcoms where they say Santa's not real until you see him flying over the house or something.
Exactly. Like the one thing that this stage does not have that made me so disappointed. So when you you take out the two thieves, Harry and Marv, and you go to one of the exits and you're walking away, usually it'll show like the camera pulls back and eventually, you know, it kind of shows the skyline above this museum where this is all taking place. They so miss an opportunity by not having like a silhouette of like Santa's sled flying over top. Because the whole time the camera's zooming back, you hear the jingle bells even louder, and it's like, oh, you guys missed a golden opportunity. That would have been so funny. But really, that's about all I have to say for this particular level 2. If you ever do play Hitman and you're just wanting to try, you know, something kind of funny and kind of goofy, this is going to be one of your best opportunities to experience that more goofy side of the Hitman games, where they usually present themselves kind of serious, but you can do some really silly stuff. And honestly, what better way to do a silly thing than basically have an adult an adult version of Kevin McAllister, who's bald with a gruff voice, going after the two thieves that gave him such a hard time as a kid. But yeah, that's all I got to say about the Christmas level here. And if you do want to play this one in particular, if you decide to play Hitman, it's called Holiday Hoarders.
All right. Talking about someone who hoards games, although not so much anymore. He made quite a bundle this past year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but Evan used to hoard a lot of games, especially Vita games.
Oh, yeah. And these are the ones I kept, or among the ones I kept. The transition I would have picked was, speaking of Christmas in Europe, because my game takes place in Europe. But, okay, listeners, I'm going to be talking about a visual novel for a while now, so feel free to ignore for the next 10-15 minutes. Enjoy whatever game you're playing while listening to this.
I'll play some Vanquish Tact while you're going on.
There you go. So I apologize in advance, but I have to talk about 2 games before I talk about the Christmas game. So over the course of the whole year, like around spring to now, I was playing the just off and on the Code Realize series of visual novels. They're like the Otome ones targeted specifically towards girls. But instead of a game where all the routes are chasing after girls, you're going after a guy instead. But all the guys are characters from literature. So you have Arsene Lupin, Van Helsing, Dr. Frankenstein, Impy Barbicane, and Saint Germain, who I did research on because I hadn't heard of the last 2. And I believe Saint Germain was an actual person, but it all takes place in like a steampunk version of Victorian England. So it hits all that, all those teen girl notes. Cute guys, steampunk England. So the player character is Cardia, a young woman who is cursed with poisonous skin that can melt anything with a touch. Her father was a famous inventor, and he's mysteriously disappeared. Living alone in an abandoned mansion and treated as a monster for her skin condition, she lacks like emotion and personality. So like when you first start the game, she's kind of just like doesn't really think for herself, doesn't really emote very well. Over the course of the game, because I played through all of the routes, I noticed when I had to go back to the very start of the game how different her personality is way later in the game compared to how she is at the very start. So one day she is quote-unquote stolen away by the gentleman thief Arsene Lupin and brought to his hideout where he works alongside the engineer Impy Barbicane and the Count Saint Germain to find her father, in part to cure her illness, but also because he might be involved in an incoming terrorist plot. Along the way, you ally yourself with the fugitive scientist Victor Frankenstein and the war hero Van Helsing. So first of all, I'm just gonna get this right off the bat, none of these characters are like how they're ever portrayed in their novels. Victor Frankenstein's like a very soft-spoken, kind, polite guy. He's like the nice guy of the group. The guy is like, oh, you're just so cool. I like hanging out with you because you're the most level-headed and calm guy. The only similarities Van Helsing shares with his counterpart is that he hunts vampires, or he used to. I don't even know who Impy is. I've never heard of Saint Germain. So you get to know her, the whole Lupin crew during the common route while they look for her father. And there's a major revelation at that point that kind of splits them off into their own different character routes. And they all got their own ending, but like the only one that has any sort of conclusion is Lupin's. For some reason, they decided to make his ending the true ending, and you can only get to his ending by doing the other four guys first. And all four guys have like their own unique protagonist or their own unique antagonist, and they resolve like one part of the story, whereas Lupin's resolves all of them. So there's the second game. The first one was called Guardian of Rebirth. The second was called Future Blessings, and this one includes epilogue chapters to all those other characters' stories. So like say you played through Victor Frankenstein and he has his ending. In the sequel game, there is like a epilogue where you play as what happened after his story ended. And so that game also included like a bonus like 3-4 hour long story that takes place during the common route. But the most important part of this game, as it relates to the actual game I'm talking about, is they added in 2 new routes that follow from the common route of the first game, and that was Herlock Sholmes, not Sherlock Holmes, because
I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick, but I'm pretty sure
Sorry.
they call him Herlock Sholmes in what is it, the Great Ace Attorney game that just released.
Yes, he's so what I read was the author of the Arsene Lupin novels. He wanted to incorporate Sherlock Holmes into his story, but Arthur Conan Doyle said no.
Yeah.
So he did a reverse one by switching the names around. So now it's Herlock Sholmes. But he is actually for real Sherlock Holmes in disguise.
Okay.
Like, okay, buddy. So
Surprise!
yeah, a famous detective going around named Herlock Sholmes. No one knows where Sherlock Holmes is, though. He apparently was killed by his arch nemesis, supposedly. But the most important part was there's a new story route for her brother, Finis, who was like one of the major antagonists of the first game. But for various spoiler reasons, he does not get a redemption of any kind in those endings. He's the bad guy throughout the whole story. And this version is basically her trying to redeem her brother, get him to become a good guy in the end. And the reason that's important is because in the actual game that I want to talk about, which is the third game, Wintertide Miracles, it does the same thing where it adds new stories for each guy, but it's based on the ending to Finis's route in the previous game, not the first game. And this is where it starts to get really confusing, because when I first picked up these games, I thought it would be fun if I played through an entire character story first to last game. I didn't do full research on it, and there really wasn't much information to go on, so I thought that each game carried into the next one, not realizing there's literally a split in the second game that breaks them off into 2 alternate timelines where her brother is a good guy and her brother is not. It's really confusing, but it sort of made sense why they did it, because this gave them an opportunity to have a romance the guys, since at the end of Future Blessings, they kind of gone as far as they could go with them. At the end of most of them, they were like married or not married, and there was like no problems to solve anymore. Her skin situation was solved, and it was kind of like, there's like a feature I'm going to talk about later on that kind of makes this kind of clear why. But the Wintertide Miracles is the Christmas themed one, and it has all these 2 to 3 hour long stories for each guy, and it's based off the ending of Finis's story where she romances these guys. And it's like it's sort of like oh, she's living out in Wales now, so she's not living with them anymore, but she really misses the particular character that you're romancing, and at the start of each one. But the game also includes, just to pad it out, an extra story that goes in with the common route, so it's canon to every version of the game, and 2 more epilogues related to the Herlock, Sholmes, and Finis. And it also includes a new feature called Triangle Dates, which is you pick 2 of the 5 guys and pair them up, and they kind of fight over Cardia in like a 10-minute, 15-minute long date. And like, oh, here's the reward is you get like a little image of the scenario that's happening, but they're fighting over her. Like there's one of the 2 guys dancing with her together. There's one of 2 guys like kissing her at the same time. Random crap like that. Thankfully, they're very short. It was one of the worst parts of the game. I didn't care about it at all. It was, as far as I could tell, non-canonical, because like a lot of it was in a weird, vague period of time, or relates to stuff that you would have only seen at a character's ending, when they would be with somebody, not fighting with someone. The characters were making their interest in her more clear, whereas they kind of stumble over their affection for her during their route. But what I really liked about the game was it had this really cute Christmas tree menu. So when you start a new game or you continue a new game, it takes you to basically a giant Christmas tree, and the star on top is the triangle date section. So you click on that, takes you to that part. The ornaments on the tree are all the guys you can pick in their storyline. At the very bottom of the tree, it's the presents, and if you hover over one of the presents, it pops out one of the characters in the bonus stories. So once you've done all of this, you've done everything in the game, you've spent 20 to 30 hours doing literally anything, everything that is possible to do, the game drops new epilogues. Here's an extra 30 minutes with each guy. But, and this kind of like drove me nuts, but it relates to the version of events in the first game and the second game. So it's not like an epilogue to the Christmas stories, it's the first game stories. And I was like, why did they shove these in here? It was so strange, because first of all, these stories really brought across how there was nothing left for them to explore with these characters. Because normally I would play like, oh, I really liked Frankenstein's story more than Impy's, but I really liked Impy's. Oh, but Lupin's was the best. This one was like, oh, nope, they're all basically the same to me. 30 minutes of fluffing around, maybe getting married. If they're already married, they're going somewhere. It was incredibly boring and unnecessary, but I guess they decided they would add it in because fans would want to see how the story ends for the main universe, I guess you could say. And yeah, it was fun. Very long, all 3 games. I started playing it in like April, and I just finished the winter game, Wintertide Miracles, last week. I probably spent 2 months on each one, then took a break in between them all. I would probably put my total playtime at about 80 hours because I played every route, every piece of content in the game. I popped all the platinum trophies, I guess you could say, for them, because I did everything in them. The only tricky part was in the first game, you have to start from the very beginning and go through the common route all over again, and then just change your choices so it'll direct you into that character's story. But you can fast forward through it, but you're still kind of like staring, maybe watching a movie or something while you wait for the game to go through. And it's like 30 minutes of text. So I think overall it's like 10 to 20 hours to read the whole thing. But yeah, it was. I don't usually I play a lot of visual novels, but I usually don't play ones where you play as the girl. The way I kind of switch my mindset is, if you're playing as a guy and the idea is to go after a girl, I go, which character would I pick? But with a game where I'm playing as the girl, I kind of switch my mindset to which guy do I want to get the girl type thing. And so I basically went down in order of my favorite characters. In case anyone's interested, my favorite character was Victor Frankenstein. I thought his story was kind of the most interesting one, even though he's basically a completely different character from how he is in fiction. I thought it was really funny how of the 5 guys you can pick, 3 of them relate to committing some sort of war crime or genocide on people. I thought that was a strange decision, but I guess they feel bad about it. So
yeah, you had mentioned Saint Germain that you weren't really familiar with. So he was actually a famous European adventurer who was into like science and alchemy and the arts. And one of the things that he would claim later on in life was that he was the son of a prince from Transylvania, which is probably why they ended up using him as a character in the Castlevania series, if you've seen that recently.
Oh really? Well,
yeah.
I'll say this. I'll spoil his storyline because I didn't like his very much. He's just kind of like a really enigmatic weirdo who's like a count, and he's the mansion. His mansion is the one they live in. The way they end the common route that's similar to everyone's story is he comes out of nowhere and stabs someone to death. And they don't kind of explain what that was unless you're doing his storyline. And you find out it's because he is a part of a secret group that is led by someone who might be Eve from the biblical story. And she has a whole bunch of storybook characters or something, or like fictional characters. And they're basically immortal assassins that prevent catastrophe. Like in the first game, there was Guinevere as a knight, and then the second game introduced Hansel, and he uses a giant key-shaped sword that he named Gretel after his sister. And Saint Germain's one of these immortal guys, and he is tasked with bringing everyone together so that they can kill Cardia. And the first 2 hours of his story is him holding her captive in a different mansion. And I was like, I'm supposed to fall in love with this guy? It was very bizarre. It was probably the worst one of the bunch.
Sounds dreamy.
Oh yeah, he's the kind of guy who's like, oh, weirdo, like, oh, look at me, I'm goofy, I'm having fun, aren't I? And then he turns out to be super serious, and I think you find out that he might have killed a whole village of people when he was still working for this secret group. You find out that Victor Frankenstein, he created a chemical that the crown used as a weapon to kill vampires. And then obviously you find out that Van Helsing killed vampires in a war, and feels really bad about it. I was just very like, this is very heavy for a video game where you try to smooch guys, but whatever.
Hey, they put the time in.
Yeah, it was. It's definitely one of the better visual novels I've played. I don't really regret my time playing it. It was kind of fun to just chill on the couch and read. Also, fun fact: Wintertide Miracles, the last retail Vita game.
Really?
It was the last game to be sold in a store for the Vita. Everything else was limited run stuff.
And what did we just have in the past this month of July? The last ever digital releases on Vita.
Yes, and tomorrow they are releasing Super Meat Boy on limited run games, which should supposedly be the last limited runs Vita game.
All right. Well, if you're listening to this and have made it all the way through Evan's visual novel talk and are feeling the need for some Meat Boy, then if you're listening to this in a timely release set, maybe not July by the time I get this out. Probably will be. But, whatever. Check out limited run games. They're always good for some good stuff there.
I'm not going to try to get it because I think there's only 1,000 copies for Super Meat Boy. And they're doing the whole, 10 o'clock, 6 o'clock thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be involved in that, Chief. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the bots will get them all. You can get it for $200 in a few weeks. Along with your next PS5 for $1,000. All right, let's go to something not coming up, but something that has been well in the past. Pendy, how about you and I talk some Dragon Quest for a while? Because we've both got a few different Dragon Quest games we want to mention and the shout-outs they've done in the past.
I got
I'll
a
let
Dragon
you
Quest
start
game
off.
too.
What? Did I not read this? Oh, you do have another Dragon Quest. All right, so here we go. We're going to get a bunch of different Dragon Quests in here. So, Pendy, we'll start with
On
you.
a Dragon
Yangus, we'll
Quest
get you in.
podcast?
What?
I know.
No,
You know.
no.
Yep, I skipped down to your fourth one, Yangus, and totally missed your third one. So we'll start out with Dragon Quest 2. Pendy, go ahead and talk Dragon Quest 2. We'll try to go in order here.
All right, yeah. So I'm talking about Dragon Quest 2, but in particular, to keep in with our theme today, I'm going to talk about the Rhone area of Dragon Quest 2. So I just finished playing the delocalized patch for Dragon Warrior 2. This takes the NES Dragon Warrior 2 and puts in a new accurate and uncensored script and redoes all the censored sprites. I went in and hacked it and actually changed the sprites. So like the ghosts that you'd see in the NES version, they're now coffins like they were in the original. Churches with their crosses and priests are restored. It's fantastic. And you may ask,
We get all the
why not
boots
just
for puff-ups?
oh yes, yeah. There's a section of
okay.
town in one of the towns where like there's a cross-dressing person and a puff and all sorts of crazy crap going on. But and you may ask yourself, why not just take the original Famicom Dragon Quest 2 and put in an English translated script there? Which is not a bad idea either, but the crew behind the patch liked the idea of keeping all the NES features, such as the battery save and the opening attack on Moonbrook, that's not in the Japanese version, and stuff like that. So I recently played an English translation patch for the Famicom Dragon Quest 1, and if you have to use the password system in there, it is no joke, because the first few Dragon Quests in Japan use a password system as opposed to a battery save. It is extensive. It's like 20 characters or something ridiculous like that. So I can see the logic of why they went in that direction the way that they did. But anyway, I'm here to focus primarily on the last wintery area that you have to traverse through to go to Hargon's castle near the end of the game. And let me tell you, there is no Christmas cheer here. There are no sleigh bells. There's no chestnuts roasting on an open fire. No presents from Santa, just death around every corner. Giants, lizards, and gold baboons, oh my. The giants will often do critical hits. The gold baboons can cast sacrifice, wiping out your entire party. And the blizzards often cast defeat that can also potentially kill your whole party too with the insta-death. And I didn't even mention yet the bullwongs, which people now know as archdemons that can cast explodette, using the old NES terms. It is a nightmare out there. And the joke that people often, the running joke about the Prince of Canik dying all the time, oh yeah, there's truth to that joke now that I've played this version after so many years. He is made of glass. Out of the three characters, I found out, and this is probably where he gets the reputation for dying so often, even more so than the princess, is that he will often take the most damage from a breath or a magic attack. I'll have a monster, for example, I'll have a monster cast Explode at me. It'll do around 50 damage to Mindenhall and Moonbrook. It'll do 80 damage for Canik. It's ridiculous. He is the only character, he's also the only character that gets Zoom and Revive for spells, which in the original, if you don't remember, you can't use Revive in battle, unlike in the remakes. And also in the remakes, Moonbrook, they gave her Revive because she didn't have that in the original either. So have that Leaf of the World Tree handy because you might need it, especially with that kind of setup. I'm glad they fixed him and buffed him up in the remakes. It's bad in the original. So it's not a very merry situation. I had no ho-ho-hos to give. So with that, I will jingle all the way to everyone else's take on this area. What do you guys think, and what were your impressions of it back in the day or recently if you played remakes or the original?
No, it was rough. No, I remember all those spells, yeah. You'd get hit hard and those freaking instant death spells.
Yep.
I never had a problem with Canik. All the times I played, never had a problem. But when I was young, I used to grind like crazy, so that might have been part of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you like super grind in every little area, and that's going to help out a lot. But I kind of went as fast as I could and kind of explored out before getting the best equipment too. Like I would go to the next area and kind of grind in that area so that I could more quickly get gold to get the best stuff. Because on the original, everything is so expensive and it takes a long time to get gold and experience. So I died a lot. And Kanik, he would die the most. And like I said, and this is something I didn't remember or just never realized, is that it made a big difference that him being more susceptible to breath and magic attacks is probably what did him in more than anything else. Because everyone else was just either naturally better at not getting as much damage, or would be able to get equipment like the water flying cloth for the princess that would help out with that. But he didn't have anything like that, so he just took the brunt of all that crap, and that's what led him to die, probably more so than anything else on stuff. So it could be frustrating.
All right,
Sounds like a nightmare. Should have saved this for the Halloween episode.
Right?
Nice. Well, let's move through the Dragon Quest series of games we got. 5 would be next on our list. Yangus, what did you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about Fairie Lee, which I'm probably not saying it correctly how it is, but that's what I've always called it. Fairie Lee from Dragon Quest V. So, particularly the first generation. So, when you're playing through Dragon Quest V, the first generation has you playing as the protagonist as a little boy. And after your adventures hunting ghosts in up to 10 towers with Bianca, which don't worry, if you forget about that experience, you're going to hear about it like 10 more times as you play the game. You end up meeting a fairy. I believe her name is called Honey, and she is from the Kingdom of Fairy Lee. So she helps you reach Fairy Lee, and you discover that this place is just in a continuous winter due to, I believe they call her the Winter Queen or the Ice Queen. It's in the translation that we got, it seems very reminiscent and very much a big shout out to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe from C.S. Lewis from the Chronicles of Narnia series, where it's in that book, Narnia is in a constant state of winter due to the White Queen and her powers, and it seems like that's what they were going for with Dragon Quest V. You get there, you are it's just your hero or protagonist. You have your saber cat, or saber cub, I should say, and Honey, who ends up joining you as you explore through Fairy Lee. And your goal is to pretty much just travel across the landscape. You have to find I believe it's called the Spring Flute, if I remember the name correctly, which you have to find in order to, what do they call it? What would that word be? Summon the spring, or I forget what wording they use. Anyway, the point is you have to find this flute in order to help bring about spring and end the eternal winter that's been going on, because it's also affecting the real world too, because people in your hometown are starting to notice hey, it seems a little colder around here than it usually is this time of the year. Something's going on. So it's slowly but surely starting to affect the real world too. You end up traveling through a cave. You meet an old dwarf who's looking for his grandson, Dwight the White Dwarf. You end up finding him in this frozen palace to the far northwest of the Fairy Lee world. If I remember right, you fight him, and then you have to fight the Winter Queen. And once you've done that, you get the flute. You summon you summon spring to come into the world. The snow starts to melt. The flowers all start to bloom. And when you eventually are able to go back to Fairy Lee years later in the game, you find that your actions, help change Fairy Lee back to the way it was supposed to be. It's in a constant state of spring/summer. The winter palace that was in the far northwest that you originally traveled to is now actually a big TNT board that you can play on. You can recruit Dwight the White Dwarf in the cave where you originally found his grandfather, and there are a few snow-themed enemies. I don't remember what their translated names are, but there are the 4 little leaf-wearing guys, which they have light blue skin. They have blue leaves. They're a reference to the hero, the soul, or the warrior, the mage, or the wizard, and the priest classes from Dragon Quest III. I forget what their names are. It's the Conqueror, the Conca Mage, stuff like that. And you can recruit them in there when you go back to it in Generation 3. And really, that's about all I have. It's just a nice little wintry themed break from the rest of the game, and it's cool that you actually get to go back to it years later in the game and see how your actions affected it. It's no longer winter themed when you go back to it later, but you still kind of have that sort of otherworldly this is kind of a cool vibe. But yeah, I chose this one because of the winter theming to it at the beginning of the game, and it's kind of one of your little side adventures that you go on when you are a child in Dragon Quest V.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, going numerically, we'll and actually release date wise, we'll go with Dragon Quest IX next. This was one of the things I put on there because in Dragon Quest IX there is a DLC quest. So 99% of you listening out there, too bad, too late, you can't get it anymore. But there is a DLC quest in Dragon Quest IX that if you were lucky enough long ago when the DS servers were still running, you could get it. It was quest number 152, and it was called Merry Questmas. And you basically went, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm looking at the map right here, pretty sure it was just north, an island well in the north, but it was north of the not Hogwarts area. Leave Swine Dimples Academy, head north, hop on a boat. Although it looks, I can't remember if this was, you could only access it by air or something. But late in the game, you could get there, little island up there, and there was Kris Kringle. You'd meet Kris Kringle in his house, and he's dressed up. You can see him just like Santa Claus. It required you, or it asked you to go beat the Tantamount monsters in high-level volcano grottos. They were the horse that kind of the red, green, gold-colored horse recolors of the Equinox monster that was a grotto boss quite often. But you had to be in a high-level volcano grotto, beat Tantamounts in 5 turns or less, and you had to do it like 8 times to get 8 heavenly horseshoes. It was, if you were loving to do all the boss encounter monster or maps, get the this one gave you the S-Dark map, and that's one of the, I mean, they're all kind of rough when you start leveling them up, but S-Dark definitely one of the rough ones. But if you hung around Kringle Coast up there, that was the name of the little island that obviously Kris Kringle lived on. There's a bunch of other side quests that you could get there too. But I know there was also, you could get the Santa cloak. Wasn't that one of the items to wear? One of the armors, I believe, and the hat too.
I remember the hat for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were a couple things with that, but yeah, just a little side quest. But he had his own little island up on the Kringle Coast up there. You could go visit him. There was a little Christmas tree with an ornament on top. He had a wreath around, like up on the fireplace mantle too. So little nod to Christmas in Dragon Quest IX. And I believe, Pendy, you've got some even more recent Dragon Quest Christmassy stuff for us.
I do, in a way. So I'm just going to do a quick shout out to Dragon Quest of the Stars and Dragon Quest Monster Super Lights. With those 2 games, DQMSL had a Christmas event with some fantastic Christmas-themed backgrounds and enemies. You had enemies like the Christmas canna boxes, little elf sanguinies, Santa sanguinies, and sweetie bags, which were Christmas-themed trick bags. DQOTS had some sweet Christmas gear you could get. I know I mentioned this on our Sayonara to DQOTS episode, but I loved the boomerang weapon shaped like a snowboard that I was able to get that had multiple different colored slimes designed on it. It was one of my favorite weapon designs that you could get in that game. And the big boss event for it was God from Dragon Quest VII dressed up as Santa. So that was fun to go battle him. Did anyone else get a chance to participate in either of those? Those are fun events.
I feel like when I first started the Dragon Quest, what is it, the Monsters one, Super Light, I played the Japanese version when it first came out, and I want to say right around spring break, like early March, they did a very wintry themed one early on. I remember they had the white slimes that in some of the Monsters games are called snow slimes, and they had a few other things, but I know I didn't stick around for Super Light when it came out in English until Christmastime. But I do remember some of the wintry themed ones, at least for a week or so in either late February or early March, back when the original Japanese ones started up. But I guess that's it with our Dragon Quest. Just a lot of little things. I mean, obviously they've not made an entire Dragon Quest Christmas or wintry game.
Just give them some time. I'm sure they will eventually.
I am Dragon Quest. Well, if 12 is the one, then we're
Well,
stuck in winter for
no.
like 10 to 20 years.
Be a
gonna set the pace.
dark themed Christmas Dragon Quest game, since they said 12 is going to be very very dark. So it'll be a very
Dark
depressing Dragon
Ooh.
Quest Christmas game. Santa's
Winter gets
died.
darker
dead.
longer. In a world without Santa, it's only you. All right, so
That would be the greatest plot twist to like a Dragon Quest game. It's like you will become Santa Claus. Have like a real like a sleigh bells
Claus?
version of like Dragon Quest of the Dragon Quest Overture.
as long as the main hero can equip claws, that's his weapon type.
Well, they're
Ultimate
gonna
one,
have a boss
Santa's
called
claws.
Sandy Claus. It's gonna be like a crab or a lobster thing.
Oh yeah. It would have to be in the sand or the desert.
Yep.
All right, Yangus, since you spoke up, your tag, you're it. Talk about your last one that you wanted to talk about tonight.
Okay, for my last one, I decided to pick an indie game that I believe it's been out for a few years now. It's called Project Winter. So this was a game that, if you've seen games like Among Us or things like that, it's sort of that style of game. This is a game where you will play, I believe it's up to 10 people will play in one, or can play in one game. 2 people will be the traders. The rest of you are the survivors who are trying to get out of this wintry valley before this mega blizzard hits. You can like design your characters however you want to. I like to call the fat character that you can pick pretty much what Eric Cartman would look like if he was an adult. If you know Cartman from South Park. And better yet, like the big fat body you can pick. They have like these like skinny twig legs, so it's even funnier yet watching them run around. But you have some different options. Like for that, you can pick, be a guy or a gal. You can decorate your, pick different facial features, outfits for the winter, stuff like that. But anyway, so you have different goals you want to complete. You can do some crafting, like you want to find like scrap metal, so you can make like missing cogs or missing like pieces for these machines you want to repair to, get the helicopter to come to this place to pick you up. The traders can do stuff like, sabotage the machines. They can go and collect stuff and go and try and hide it, or they want to try and kill off players. You'll be able to craft, everybody can craft different things like axes or guns to use, because you also, as well as the trader having to work, you have to worry about them and trying to figure out who that is. You also have wildlife you have to watch out for, like bears and wolves, and I believe they've added some other things with updates. It's been one of those games that it's slowly getting updated more and more with new content and stuff, but basically it's a game all about survival, and like you can set it for like 30 minutes for a game where you have to like travel across like the different sectors of the map and find materials. And I mean, really, I can't say too much more about the game without repeating myself all that much. I will say, like, the way I discovered this game was from a guy named Criken over on YouTube, where he just had some like highlights of playing the game with some of his buddies, just because it was a few years ago that I saw that, and it just was sort of my introduction to the game, and I really liked what I saw. And his introduction was that he made his character an old man in red, and he called him Father Winter. He kind of looked like a Santa Claus character, just without the hat. And like he's going around talking in this sort of voice the whole time. Sonny, do you have any berries you can spare? Things like that. And the funniest part, though, is that since this is a game all about survival, and if a human player dies, they're going to just become a ghost and just can see all the action. Well, if somebody dies and you go to their body, you can take out their heart, and as Criken learned from the video that I happened to see, you can actually go to your cabin and you can cook the human heart if you absolutely need something to eat. So it's definitely a game about survival. I remember watching that. Him and his old man voice. Criken's just like, oh shit, well, we have another option if we run out of food. Come here, fatso. But it's definitely a fun game to check out. I've gotten a chance to play it a little bit. I actually enjoy this like of a game where you have to like figure out who the traitor is and like get out before it's too late. I prefer this over like Among Us, because for one, the game goes a lot, it takes a lot longer to get through it. It's not just like one hit and you're dead sort of thing. And the game encourages you to interact and work with your teammates, and you can do silly stuff like if you want to, or you can actually just try and play the game. And really visually, it's got a nice style to it as well. There's not really much music to it, but visually, I like the style they went with. It's more simple polygon shapes and designs to it. But really, like, the art style really does a good job, like, showing off the characters and all of the things that you can look out for in the overworld. Like, if you're looking for berry bushes or the machinery and stuff like that, there's very easy markers to figure them out, and they stand out very well amongst, like, the snowy backgrounds. And there's little areas too you can stand at where you can get a better overview of a particular area that you're at. Like, they're marked with little flags, and they'll have a circle that if you're standing in it, your character will then, like, the camera pans down to more of an eye level view so you can see more what's going on around you. But it's a good little indie game, and if you're looking for something that's going to give you a little bit more meat to it than versus like the really quick fire stuff that Among Us has, then I would definitely recommend Project Winter. It's a fun time. It can be a pretty goofy game too, especially if you like to make your character and just have them be something really silly, like the Eric Cartman thing I was talking about, or the Father Winter thing where you just start going around acting like an old man. No, Sonny, can you help me put this machine together? Just stupid stuff like that. It's a good time. I definitely recommend it.
Sounds good. I know my son just came back today. He has never mentioned Among Us. We've never talked about it. But at my school I work at, that the kids play Among Us physically on the playground all the time. Like first grade, second grade, they all play it. Their older brothers and sisters have played it, so that's what they play on the playground. Even our the PE aides or the recess aides that we have outside, I'll see the kids all lined up, like closing their eyes, and the aide will go around and like tap two kids on the shoulders to be the imposters, and then they just run around the playground playing like tag, almost like that.
Oh yeah,
and
it's pretty much like a game of tag almost.
Yeah, so my son's at we're bringing my oldest son to the school I'm at this year for the first time, and he's at summer camp, and the group he's in at summer camp is like half the kids that will be in his second grade class anyway. And he came home today, and all the way home in the car, he was telling me about he played this new game at recess today called Among Us, and I was like, oh man.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
What about Fortnite? Play Fortnite yet?
Sus.
Oh, that, you know what? Fortnite, yeah, some of the kids still talk about that. That I don't know. It might have been the years and the grade levels that I taught. I feel like I missed all the Fortnite talk, but no, Among Us has been pretty big.
Yeah, that's definitely been like the new, like it was Minecraft, then it became Fortnite, now Among Us seems to be becoming that new one.
Yeah, kids will draw me pictures. They'll draw me the little characters and write on the board like coding is sus.
Yeah, I don't think Among Us is bad by any means, but I personally prefer Project Winter for that style of game, just because, like I said, it's got a little more meat to its bones. It's not just the simple like, one touch, your character's dead. And the game actually encourages you to work together and like communicate with your team. Whereas in Among Us you have to be quiet and then you don't get to say anything until it's like, oh well, this person died. Where were you? I don't know. They both have different takes on that sort of genre, but I just prefer Project Winter because it's a little more, I guess, what I expect from that kind of game, because it reminds me of what's that game called? It's like Secret Werewolf or something like that. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, one, right?
I played that at anime cons before.
Yeah. It makes me think more of that. But yeah, that's all I got on Project Winter. It's a good time.
Nice, and that's pretty much it for us. We could probably go on and on about lesser known things over and over and over again, but looking at our list, I think we covered everything we wanted to do. Anybody else got anything else they want to talk about real quick, or we good to wrap this up?
go ahead.
I'll just say that I have a fan blowing on me right now because it's very hot outside.
Yeah, it's this is definitely Christmas in July, where like right now I'm in the desert where it gets up to like 113 during the day. It's definitely not very Christmassy out here.
Jeez.
But I will wish everybody out there a Merry Questmas.
There we go.
Merry Questmas to all, and to all a good night.
Ho ho ho, blimey.
That's it for
Guys,
this
look
episode.
outside. I see sleigh bells.
Oh, bring it in, schnickle schnickle.
Oh man, that was the best. I was reading the script. I did not even notice the snickle thing. You saying it just makes it funnier because it's just like, what the hell is schnickle?
Better watch out. He's gonna come whip you with the branch off the tree.
I think all he has to do is just say schnickle to me, and that'll be enough to get me to listen.
Maybe he's just tickle you with that tree branch.
Schnickle. That's what he says when he tickles you. He's like, schnickle.
It's that German accent. It just sounds like schnickel.
There we go.
Oh, man. Well, that is it for this episode of Slime Time Sidequest. MattCraft took off a little early, but thanks, Evan and Pendy, for sticking around and joining us to talk about games that make us think about Christmas in our ridiculously hot July.
Yeah. Thank you for being on tonight, guys. And thank you, too, to all of our guests that we've had on in past episodes. It's crazy that it's been a year now since we've started doing these SideQuest episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you figure out, man? It was like, Matt,
I think we're pretty much exactly like at 53 weeks. I think we were late July last year. So, yeah, we're a little bit over a year to the day. So
that's crazy.
It's been fun. We got 20 of these suckers out in a year. So,
I know.
Goodness.
That's crazy. I honestly would have thought we had gotten more out, too. It's like, wow, we're only on episode 20. It seems like we've done so many more. But we've had a lot of guests on. We always we thank Evan/Eel, Pendy and MattCraft for being on tonight. But we also got to thank regulars. We also had like Barurian, Blue Star, Osnavar, our brother Jay Bird, and I'm
Drippy's
sure there's
been on quite a few
Drippy,
times.
yes, thank you, Drippy.
Yep.
We've had Drippy on too. We've had I feel like there's somebody else that I'm forgetting from our usual ones that we have.
That's what happens. You start listing names and we always forget somebody.
I know. If I forgot to list somebody, I apologize. But we really do. We thank everybody for who's been on these
You did
episodes.
that on purpose.
I didn't even hear what you said, but we do have to thank everybody that's been on these episodes, and for everybody who listens to us. We just enjoy doing this because we like talking with one another and sharing, some of our gaming experiences. And, we're happy that, so many, that we have folks that listen to us and, that want to join us for these different episode topics and everything. So, it's been a great year of doing these episodes. So, hey, let's, keep the momentum going for another year of SideQuest episodes.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't even DLC. Servers are shut down and you can probably still find this episode around somewhere. Unless Anchor FM.
Jeez, was the Christmas episode or a Thanksgiving episode?
Oh, wait, you can always find it on the Den. Never mind. We're always on the Den. Speaking of the Den, if you've got any money you'd like to donate, consider sliding on over to the Dragon's Den at www.woodus.com/den and click on support this site. He's owned and maintained the Dragon's Den fan site there for 20 years plus now. I'm sure he'd appreciate any donation. I know he's got a new link, Woodus does, at the top of the Den. I don't know if it's just in the forums or on the Den proper, where you can shop Amazon through his affiliate link, not just buy, one or two off Dragon Quest things, but, you're going to go buy a wood chipper for $1,000, Might as well buy it through there. Woodus will probably get 75 cents and won't cost you a penny.
If you would like to message Plattty or I about episode ideas or just to contact us about something, we'd be happy to hear from you. You can reach out to Plattty via the Discord, via the Dragon's Den Discord. He's under Plattym3. You can send him a personal message, or you can reach him through the Dragon's Den itself. Same way with a personal message. You can also contact him via his Twitter account, it's just Plattym3, correct? Nothing else? Okay. Yep. You can contact him through that. You can also contact me at YangustheLegendaryBandit on the Dragon's Den or through the Dragon's Den Discord through the same way with personal messages. And even though, I just said that Plattty had a Twitter account, a joke we started up last time was where we're going to randomly start messaging a person on Twitter. As I learned from MattCraft from the last time we did one of these SideQuest episodes, apparently there was another Psychic Pebbles on Twitter I was not aware of. So just to make it really clear this time, for our random Twitter message / person we're going to message with stuff, it's going to be all lowercase, all one word, Psychic Pebbles, and message him. You hope he enjoys life while he's green and retired. He'll understand what it means. So hopefully now we're going to have the right Psychic Pebbles for this one, and not the whatever the hell it was MattCraft told us about last time. Just like, what the hell is this? That's not the one I meant.
Whew, all right. Well, on that very confusing note that I have absolutely no idea about, I'm just gonna say bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Side quest complete. Here's hoping we have another great year side quest.